Some people get all the breaks. You've heard it before, haven't you? Oh, they're just lucky. They had connections. They were born into money. They were in the right place at the right time. It's the greatest lie we tell ourselves, and I'm going to tell you why. There was a man I knew, let's call him Michael, who worked in the same factory for 23 years. Every day, same routine. Punch in at 7 a.m., punch out at 3:30 p.m. Every Friday, he'd cash his paycheck and complain about how the rich keep getting richer while guys like him never get a chance. 23 years of the same story. Then one day, Michael's neighbor started a small landscaping business. Asked Michael if he wanted to help on weekends. Just until I get on my feet, the neighbor said. Michael said yes, not because he loved cutting grass, but because he needed the extra money. 6 months later, something happened that changed everything. Michael was trimming hedges at a big house when the owner came out to talk. Turned out this man owned 3 apartment complexes. His regular maintenance guy had just quit. "You do good work," he told Michael. "Would you be interested in taking care of my properties?" Now here's where the story gets interesting. Michael had a choice. He could take the safe route, keep his factory job, do the weekend work, make a little extra money. Or he could take a risk, quit the factory, take the maintenance contract, start his own business. What do you think he did? Michael quit the factory. Within 2 years, he had 12 apartment complexes under contract. Within 5 years, he owned 2 buildings himself. Today, Michael owns a property maintenance company with 43 employees. But here's what people don't see when they look at Michael's success. They don't see the 6 months of working 7 days a week. They don't see him learning plumbing at night after working all day. They don't see him driving around at 10 p.m. looking at properties, dreaming about what could be. They just see the results and say, "Lucky guy." Lucky? Let me ask you something. How many opportunities walked past you last week while you weren't paying attention? How many times did someone offer you a chance to learn something new, and you said you were too busy? How many doors opened while you were waiting for the perfect door? The truth is this: life doesn't happen to you. Life responds to you, and your response to what happens determines everything that happens next. You see, most people have it backwards. They think success is about what happens to them. It's not. Success is about what happens because of them. The difference between winners and losers isn't luck, talent, or even opportunity. It's response. When the alarm goes off in the morning, you have a response. When your boss gives you extra work, you have a response. When someone criticizes your idea, you have a response. When you see an opportunity, you have a response. And it's these responses, these moment-by-moment choices that create everything else. Here's what I've learned after watching thousands of people succeed and fail. Successful people and unsuccessful people often face the same circumstances, the same challenges, the same opportunities, the same amount of hours in a day. The difference isn't in what they face. The difference is in how they face it. Take failure, for instance. Everyone fails. Show me someone who's never failed, and I'll show you someone who's never tried anything worth doing. But unsuccessful people use failure as evidence that they should quit. Successful people use failure as evidence that they're getting closer. I remember talking to a woman who started a catering business from her kitchen. In her first year, she lost money on 6 out of 10 events. "I was terrible at estimating costs," she told me. "I was giving away food." Now most people would say, well, the restaurant business isn't for me, and go back to whatever they were doing before. But not this woman. She said, "I'm learning expensive lessons, but I'm learning." She started tracking every ingredient, every hour, every expense. She raised her prices. She got better at saying no to unprofitable jobs. By year 3, she was running the most successful catering company in her city. Same circumstances that made others quit made her stronger. Why? Response. Now I want to talk to you about personal responsibility because this is where most people get lost. Personal responsibility isn't about blame. It's not about beating yourself up for past mistakes. Personal responsibility is about ownership. It's about saying, I may not control what happens to me, but I control what I do about what happens to me. You want to know the fastest way to change your life? Change your response to life. But here's where it gets interesting. Your response isn't just about the big moments. Success isn't built on grand gestures and dramatic moments. Success is built on what you do when no one's watching, what you do when it's inconvenient, what you do when you don't feel like it. Let me tell you about the power of small decisions compounded over time. There's a principle in nature that governs everything from financial wealth to personal fitness to relationships. It's called the compound effect. Small, consistent actions repeated over time create massive results. Think about a penny doubled every day for 31 days. Day 1, you have a penny. Day 2, 2 pennies. Day 3, 4 pennies. For the first 2 weeks, you're laughing. It's pocket change. But by day 31, you have over $10 million. That's the power of compounding. Now, most people quit at day 14 because they don't see dramatic results. They don't understand that success is like growing bamboo. You plant the seed, water it every day, and for 4 years you see nothing at all. But in the 5th year it grows 90 feet in 90 days. Was it a miracle? No. It was 4 years of invisible growth underground, building the root system that could support rapid growth above ground. Your daily habits are your bamboo roots. What you do every single day when nobody's watching, when there's no immediate reward, when it seems like nothing's happening. That's what determines where you'll be 5 years from now. I met a man who read 1 hour every day for 20 years. 1 hour. Not a lot, you might think, but that's over 7,000 hours of learning. That's a PhD worth of knowledge in whatever field interested him. When opportunity came, and it always comes to prepared people, he was ready. People called him an overnight success, but he'd been preparing for 20 years. Here's what successful people understand that others don't. You don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. And value is something you develop by working harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work on your job, you'll make a living. If you work on yourself, you'll make a fortune. Not necessarily a financial fortune, though that often comes, but a fortune in skills, in relationships, in experiences, in wisdom, a fortune in life. Now let me ask you something. If someone followed you around for a week and watched how you spent your time, what would they conclude about your priorities? Would they be able to tell what you're trying to accomplish? Or would they see someone who says they want success, but spends their evenings watching television? Time is the one thing we all get equally. Rich or poor, young or old, we all get 24 hours a day. The question isn't how much time you have. The question is how you use the time you have. Successful people treat time like the precious resource it is. They invest it. They don't spend it. They invest it. There's a difference. When you spend money, it's gone. When you invest money, it grows. Same with time. You can spend time, or you can invest time. Spending time on activities that don't improve your life is like burning money. Investing time in activities that develop your skills, your relationships, or your health. That's how you get compound interest on life. I want to share with you the most important lesson I've ever learned about personal growth. Are you ready? Here it is. You become what you think about most of the time. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant grows. Plant thoughts of success. You'll grow success. Plant thoughts of failure. You'll grow failure. Plant thoughts of wealth. You'll grow wealth. Plant thoughts of poverty. You'll grow poverty. It's that simple, and it's that profound. But here's what most people don't realize. Your thoughts aren't random. You choose them. Every morning you wake up and choose what to focus on. You choose what to worry about. You choose what excites you. You choose what disappoints you. These choices, repeated thousands of times, create the mental environment where your life grows. Most people let their thoughts run wild. They wake up and immediately start thinking about what went wrong yesterday, what might go wrong today, what they don't have, what they can't do. They fill their minds with news about problems they can't solve, gossip about people they don't even like, and complaints about circumstances they won't change. Then they wonder why their lives don't improve. Successful people are gardeners of the mind. They're careful about what thoughts they allow to take root. They feed their minds with books, conversations, and experiences that plant seeds of possibility. They starve their minds of influences that plant seeds of doubt, fear, and mediocrity. Now, I'm not talking about positive thinking. Positive thinking without action is just wishful thinking. I'm talking about directed thinking, focused thinking, thinking that leads to action, that leads to results. Here's a simple but powerful practice. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, take 5 minutes to think about what you want to accomplish. Not just today, but this year, this decade, this life. Get clear on where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and you probably won't like where you end up. Clarity is power. The more clear you become about what you want, the more power you have to achieve it. Vague goals produce vague results. Specific goals produce specific results. But clarity alone isn't enough. You need commitment, and commitment means doing what you said you would do, long after the mood you said it in has left you. Most people are committed to their commitments only when it's convenient. They'll work out when they feel like it. They'll read when they have time. They'll pursue their dreams when conditions are perfect. Success doesn't work that way. Success comes from doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not, whether it's convenient or not, whether you have time or not. I know a writer who wrote for 2 hours every morning for 7 years before his first book was published. 2 hours before work, before family obligations, before the day began, for 7 years. Some mornings he felt inspired. Some mornings he felt terrible. Some mornings he was sick. Some mornings he had family emergencies. But for 7 years he wrote for 2 hours every morning. When his book became a bestseller, people said he was lucky to have such talent. Talent? After 7 years of 2 hours every morning, talent had nothing to do with it. That was pure commitment, creating apparent genius. Here's what commitment really means. It means you don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for inspiration. You don't wait for the right mood. You do what you committed to do, because you committed to do it. Period. Motivation gets you started. Commitment gets you finished. Now let me tell you something about the difference between successful people and everyone else. Successful people have learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable. They understand that everything they want is on the other side of hard. They know that the path to easy is through difficult. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs. They choose the comfortable option, the safe option, the option that requires the least effort, the least risk, the least growth. And they wonder why their lives stay the same year after year. But growth requires discomfort. Learning requires confusion. Before clarity, strength requires resistance. Success requires doing what others won't do, so you can have what others won't have. The word comfortable is interesting, isn't it? It comes from comfort, which means to strengthen. But somehow we've turned comfort into weakness. We think comfort means avoiding anything difficult. Real comfort, real strength, comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. And you only get that by throwing yourself at life. Here's a question I want you to consider. What are you avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable? What conversation aren't you having? What skill aren't you learning? What opportunity aren't you pursuing? What dream aren't you chasing? And what's the real cost of continuing to avoid these things? The cost of avoidance always exceeds the cost of action. Always. You might delay the payment, but you can't avoid it. The bill always comes due, and it always comes with interest. I've met people in their 60s who still talk about what they're going to do someday. Someday they'll start that business. Someday they'll learn to paint. Someday they'll travel. Someday they'll write that book. Someday has become their favorite day of the week, and it never comes. The tragedy isn't that these people didn't achieve their dreams. The tragedy is that they spent their whole lives waiting for the perfect moment that never arrived, instead of making the most of the imperfect moments that were always available. There is no perfect time. There are only moments when you decide that the time is now. Success leaves clues, and one of the biggest clues successful people leave is this: they start before they're ready. They begin before they feel prepared. They take action before they have all the answers. Why? Because they understand that you don't learn to swim by studying swimming. You learn to swim by swimming. You don't learn to run a business by reading about business. You learn to run a business by running a business. You don't build confidence by thinking confident thoughts. You build confidence by taking confident actions. Action precedes feeling. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act. Successful people act and then feel motivated. Most people wait to feel confident before they try. Successful people try and then feel confident. Here's the secret. You don't need to be great to get started, but you need to get started to be great. Let me share with you the most important question you can ask yourself. If you keep doing what you're doing, will you get what you want? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, something has to change, and that something is you. Change is hard. I won't lie to you about that. But staying the same when staying the same isn't working, that's harder. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. You have two choices. You can change your life, or life will change you. And life doesn't ask for your permission, or consider your preferences. Life just changes you based on your responses to what happens. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, decide on one thing you're going to do differently, starting tomorrow. Not 10 things. One thing. Something specific. Something measurable. Something you can commit to doing every day for the next 30 days. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes. Maybe it's walking for 20 minutes. Maybe it's writing for 15 minutes. Maybe it's learning one new thing. Maybe it's calling one person to strengthen a relationship. Maybe it's organizing one area of your life. Maybe it's saving $1. One thing. But do it every day for 30 days. Why 30 days? Because 30 days is long enough to create a habit, but short enough to maintain motivation. After 30 days, you'll have proven to yourself that you can commit to something and follow through. You'll have built the muscle of discipline, and you'll be ready for the next challenge. Success isn't about making huge changes overnight. Success is about making small changes consistently. It's about becoming slightly better every day, slightly more skilled, slightly more knowledgeable, slightly more disciplined, slightly more focused. You can't change your life in a day, but you can change your day, and that will change your life. Remember, some people get all the breaks, but you know what? You make your own breaks. Every choice you make, every action you take, every habit you develop is either moving you closer to the life you want or further away from it. There's no neutral. Every moment, you're becoming more of who you're going to be or less of who you could be. The question isn't whether you'll change. You're changing right now. The question is whether you'll direct that change or let it happen randomly. Your life is the sum of your choices. Choose wisely. Choose daily. Choose now. The foundation of all success, all achievement, all meaningful accomplishment is built on one simple truth. You are responsible for your life. Not your parents, not your boss, not your circumstances, not the economy, not the government. You. And that's not a burden. That's freedom. Because if you're responsible, that means you have the power to change things. And that power has been there all along, waiting for you to claim it. Now that you understand the foundation, that you are responsible for your response to life, let me share with you something that will change how you see everything that happens to you. Life operates in patterns, predictable patterns. And once you understand these patterns, you gain an incredible advantage. Think about the seasons. Spring always follows winter. Summer always follows spring. Fall always follows summer. Winter always follows fall. It's been this way for millions of years, and it will continue long after we're gone. Nature doesn't negotiate with the seasons. Nature doesn't complain about winter or hurry spring. Nature prepares for each season and makes the most of what each season offers. Your life has seasons too. Seasons of planting, seasons of growing, seasons of harvesting, and seasons of rest. The problem is, most people don't recognize which season they're in, so they do the wrong things at the wrong times, and wonder why they don't get the results they want. Let me tell you about a man who understood seasons. His name was David, and he owned a small construction company. For 7 years, business was tough, really tough. There were months when he couldn't make payroll, months when he had to use his personal credit cards to buy materials. His wife worked 2 jobs to help keep the company afloat. Friends told him to give up. Get a real job, they said. Stop chasing this dream. But David understood something his friends didn't. He was in winter, and winter isn't the time to give up on your farm. Winter is the time to prepare for spring. So while his competitors were complaining about the economy, David was learning. He took night classes in business management. He studied his successful competitors. He improved his estimating skills. He built relationships with suppliers. He saved every penny he could. Then the economy turned. Construction started booming again. Spring had arrived, but here's what happened next that separated David from everyone else. While his competitors scrambled to find workers, David was ready. While they struggled to get materials, David had built relationships with suppliers who gave him priority. While they bid jobs desperately, David bid strategically. Within 3 years, David's company grew from 3 employees to 37. Within 5 years, he was one of the largest commercial contractors in his region. People said he got lucky when the economy improved. Lucky. David had prepared for 7 years for that moment. When spring came, he was ready to plant. When summer came, he was ready to harvest. That's the power of understanding seasons. Every challenge contains within it the seeds of opportunity. Every setback carries within it the lessons needed for comeback. Every winter prepares you for the spring that's coming. But here's what most people do. They plant in winter and wonder why nothing grows. They try to harvest in spring when they should be planting. They rest in summer when they should be working. They party in fall when they should be preparing for winter. Which season are you in right now? And more importantly, are you doing the right things for the season you're in? Let me ask you this. When was the last time you said to yourself, why does this always happen to me? Whether it was getting passed over for a promotion, having a relationship end, losing money on an investment, or facing any other disappointment. Why does this always happen to me? Here's the truth. It doesn't always happen to you. It happens to everyone. The difference is, some people learn the pattern and break the cycle, while others keep repeating the same mistakes and getting the same results. Every problem you face is trying to teach you something. Every setback is setting you up for a comeback, if you're willing to learn the lesson. But most people are so busy complaining about the problem that they miss the lesson entirely. I knew a woman who went through 3 failed business partnerships. 3. Each time she blamed her partners. They were lazy. They weren't committed. They took advantage of me. After the 3rd failure, her friends said, maybe business partnerships aren't for you. But this woman was wise enough to ask a different question. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? She asked, what is this trying to teach me? She looked at the pattern. What did all 3 partnerships have in common? Her. She realized she was terrible at choosing partners. She was attracted to charismatic people who talked big but delivered small. She didn't do proper due diligence. She didn't put legal protections in place. She ignored red flags because she wanted to believe the best about people. So she changed her approach. She spent 6 months learning how to properly evaluate potential partners. She developed a checklist. She required references. She insisted on trial periods. She put everything in writing. Her 4th partnership, they've been in business together for 12 years now, and their company is worth millions. Same person, different pattern. That's the key. When you change the pattern, you change the results. Now let's talk about the patterns in your relationships. Because this is where most people get everything backwards. They think relationships are about finding the right people. That's only half true. Relationships are about becoming the right person and attracting the right people. You've heard it said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But let me go deeper than that. You don't just become like the people you associate with. You attract people who are like who you are. If you want to know what kind of person you are, look at the people in your life. If your friends are complainers, you're probably a complainer. If your friends are dreamers who never act, you're probably a dreamer who never acts. If your friends are successful, disciplined people. You're probably a successful, disciplined person. This isn't about judging people. This is about understanding a fundamental law of relationships, like attracts like. Oil doesn't mix with water. Eagles don't flock with turkeys. And successful people don't hang out with people who make excuses for why they can't succeed. I'm not saying you should dump your old friends. I'm saying you should raise your standards for yourself. And as you do, you'll naturally attract people who share your new standards. And you may find that some old relationships naturally fade as you grow beyond them. Here's what successful people understand about relationships that others don't. Every relationship serves a purpose, but not every relationship serves you forever. Some people come into your life for a reason, some for a season, and some for a lifetime. The key is knowing which is which. There are people who are great to have around when you're learning. They challenge you, they push you. They don't let you settle for mediocrity. But once you've learned what they have to teach, the relationship may have served its purpose. There are people who are wonderful during certain seasons of your life. They support you through difficult times. They celebrate your victories. They share your interests and values. But as you evolve, you may grow in different directions. And there are people who will be with you for a lifetime. They grow as you grow. They challenge you to become better. They love you enough to tell you the truth, even when it hurts. These are precious relationships, and you should treasure them. The mistake most people make is trying to make every relationship a lifetime relationship. They hold on to people who are holding them back because they feel loyal or guilty or afraid of being alone. But here's the truth. Holding on to relationships that no longer serve you doesn't serve them either. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go so both of you can grow. Now I want to talk to you about the art of strategic relationships, because this is how successful people build networks that create opportunities. Most people network backwards. They try to meet people who can help them. Successful people think differently. They ask, how can I help others? They look for ways to add value to people's lives. They become connectors. They introduce people who should know each other. They share opportunities with others. They become known as people who give before they get. And here's what happens when you become that kind of person. Opportunities start coming to you instead of you chasing opportunities. People start thinking of you when they hear about openings, partnerships, investments, or any kind of chance to succeed. I know a man who makes it his practice to introduce 2 people every week, 2 people who should know each other for business, for friendship, for mutual benefit. He doesn't ask for anything in return. He just does it because he believes in the power of connection. Over 20 years, he's introduced over 2,000 people. Some of those introductions led to marriages. Some led to business partnerships. Some led to job opportunities. Some led to lifelong friendships. And all of those people remember who brought them together. This man is now one of the most successful people I know, not because he's the smartest or the most talented, but because he's the most connected. When he needs something, he has 2,000 people who would be happy to help him. When opportunities arise, people think of him first. That's the power of strategic relationship building. You plant seeds of connection everywhere you go, and eventually those seeds grow into a forest of opportunity. But here's the important part. It has to be genuine. You can't fake caring about people. You can't pretend to be interested in helping others. People can sense authenticity from a mile away, and they can sense manipulation from even further. The secret is this: become genuinely interested in other people's success. Celebrate their victories. Support them through their challenges. Remember their names, their stories, their dreams. Be the kind of person others are happy to see coming. Now let me share with you one of the most important patterns to understand, the pattern of timing. There's a right time for everything, and timing can be the difference between spectacular success and spectacular failure. Most people have terrible timing because they don't understand rhythm. They don't read the signs. They push when they should pull. They speak when they should listen. They hold on when they should let go. They let go when they should hold on. Successful people develop what I call pattern recognition. They see the signs that others miss. They feel the shifts that others ignore. They sense the momentum that others can't detect. Let me give you an example. In the stock market, most people buy when prices are high because that's when everyone's talking about how much money they're making. And they sell when prices are low because that's when everyone's panicking about how much money they're losing. Buy high, sell low. That's a perfect formula for losing money. But successful investors do the opposite. They buy when everyone else is selling and prices are low. They sell when everyone else is buying and prices are high. Same information, different timing, completely different results. This principle applies to everything: careers, relationships, investments, business opportunities. There's a time to advance and a time to retreat, a time to take risks and a time to play it safe, a time to speak up and a time to stay quiet, a time to hold on and a time to let go. How do you develop this timing? By paying attention, by listening more than you talk, by watching what successful people do, not just what they say, by studying patterns in your own life and in the lives of others. Here's something I've noticed about successful people. They have an uncanny ability to know when someone's time with them is up. They can sense when an employee has stopped growing with the company. They can feel when a business partner is no longer aligned with their vision. They can tell when a relationship has run its course, and they act on this knowledge, not cruelly, not hastily, but decisively. They understand that holding on to people or situations that no longer serve mutual benefit doesn't help anyone. It prevents growth, creates resentment, and wastes everyone's time and energy. This is where the title of our discussion becomes relevant: how to use people and discard them at the right time. Now, this might sound cold or manipulative, but it's not. It's reality. Everyone uses everyone else. The question isn't whether you use people, it's how you use them. You can use people in a way that serves both of you, where you help each other grow, achieve goals, and create value. Or you can use people in a way that only serves you, taking from them without giving back. The first way creates win-win relationships. The second way creates win-lose relationships that eventually become lose-lose relationships. Successful people master the art of mutually beneficial use. They create relationships where everyone wins. They collaborate with people who have complementary skills. They partner with people who share their values but bring different strengths. They hire people who can do things they can't do or don't want to do. And when the mutual benefit ends, they gracefully end the professional relationship while preserving the personal respect. They don't cling to arrangements that no longer work. They don't continue partnerships that have outlived their purpose. They don't keep people in roles they've outgrown. This isn't about discarding people like they're disposable. This is about recognizing that every relationship has a life cycle, and trying to force a relationship beyond its natural life cycle serves no one. Let me tell you about a business owner I know who mastered this principle. Every year she evaluates every position in her company with one question: is this person still the best fit for this role? Not is this a good person? Not have they been loyal, but are they still the best fit? Sometimes the answer is yes, and those people get raises, promotions, and expanded responsibilities. Sometimes the answer is no, not because the person is bad, but because they've stopped growing in that role, or because the company's needs have changed. When she determines someone is no longer the best fit, she doesn't fire them immediately. She has an honest conversation. Sometimes this leads to the person moving to a different role within the company. Sometimes it leads to them finding a better opportunity elsewhere, with her recommendation and support. Sometimes it leads to them starting their own business, with her as their first client. Her company has grown from 5 employees to over 200 in 10 years. Her employee retention rate is higher than the industry average. Why? Because people respect her honesty. They know she's invested in their growth, even if that growth takes them away from her company. That's how successful people use and discard people. With respect, with gratitude, with support for their next chapter. They understand that letting go at the right time is often the most generous thing you can do. Here's another pattern that separates successful people from everyone else. They understand the difference between opportunity and distraction. Most people can't tell the difference, so they chase everything and catch nothing. Successful people have what I call focused opportunism. They're open to new possibilities, but they evaluate everything against their core objectives. They ask, does this opportunity align with where I'm trying to go? Will this use my strengths? Will this create the kind of value I want to create? Is this the right timing? If the answer to any of these questions is no, they say no to the opportunity, no matter how good it sounds. They understand that every yes to one thing is a no to everything else you could do with that time and energy. I knew a successful consultant who turned down $1 million project because it would have required him to spend 2 years doing work he didn't enjoy for a client, he didn't respect in a field, he was trying to exit. His friends thought he was crazy. It's $1 million, they said, but he understood something they didn't. Saying yes to that project would have meant saying no to building the business he really wanted. It would have meant 2 more years of doing work that wasn't aligned with his vision. It would have meant missing opportunities that were more aligned with his goals. 2 years later, he had built a business doing exactly what he wanted to do with clients he loved, making more than that $1 million project would have paid him annually. More importantly, he loved what he was doing. That's the power of saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great opportunities. The final pattern I want to share with you is this. Successful people understand that everything is mental before it's physical. Every building started as an idea. Every business started as a vision. Every relationship started with someone deciding to make contact. Every achievement started with someone believing it was possible. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Want to change your results? Change your beliefs? Want to change your relationships? Change how you think about relationships. Want to change your income? Change how you think about value and money. Most people try to change the outside without changing the inside. They want more money but keep thinking like broke people. They want better relationships but keep thinking like victims. They want success but keep thinking like failures. It doesn't work that way. You can't create on the outside what you don't believe on the inside. You can't achieve what you don't first conceive. You can't attract what you don't think you deserve. The good news is you can change your thinking. You can upgrade your beliefs. You can reprogram your mental patterns. It takes work, it takes time, it takes consistency, but it can be done. And once you change the patterns in your mind, the patterns in your life will change automatically. Not because of magic, but because you'll start seeing different opportunities, making different choices, taking different actions, and getting different results. These are the patterns that govern success: understanding seasons, learning from cycles, building strategic relationships, recognizing timing, knowing when to connect and when to disconnect, distinguishing opportunity from distraction, and aligning your inner world with your desired outer world. Master these patterns, and you master your life. Ignore these patterns, and they'll master you. The question isn't whether these patterns exist. They do. The question is whether you'll learn to see them and use them to your advantage. Because once you understand how life works, you can make life work for you. You now understand the foundation that you control your response to life. You understand the patterns how life operates in predictable cycles. Now comes the most important part: implementation. Because understanding without action is worthless. Knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. Let me start with a hard truth. You are sabotaging your own success. We all are. Every single day we do things that move us away from what we want instead of toward it. We make choices that serve our immediate comfort instead of our long-term dreams. We choose the familiar over the beneficial, the easy over the necessary. The enemy of success isn't some external force. It's not the economy, your background, your education, or your circumstances. The enemy of success is you. Specifically, it's the part of you that resists change, fears failure, avoids discomfort, and settles for mediocrity. Let me tell you about Sarah. For 5 years, Sarah talked about starting her own marketing consultancy. She was brilliant at marketing, had great ideas, and her current clients loved her work. But she stayed at her job year after year, complaining about her boss, her salary, and her lack of freedom. Why didn't she start her business? I don't have enough money saved. I don't have enough clients lined up. The market is too competitive. What if I fail? What if I succeed and can't handle the pressure? For every reason to start, Sarah had 2 reasons to wait. She was an expert at self-sabotage, though she didn't realize it. She convinced herself she was being prudent, responsible, realistic, but she was really being afraid. Then her company was sold, and half the staff was laid off, including Sarah. Suddenly, her choice was made for her: start the business or find another job. You know what happened? Within 6 months, Sarah had built a successful consultancy. Within 2 years, she was making more than she ever made as an employee. Last year, she hired her former boss to work for her. I should have done this year, she told me. All that time I spent making excuses. I could have been building my dream. That's the cost of self-sabotage. Not just what it prevents you from achieving, but all the time it steals from your life. Time you'll never get back. So let's talk about the most common ways we sabotage ourselves, and more importantly, how to stop. First, perfectionism. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear. Fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. Perfectionists don't start until conditions are perfect, which means they rarely start at all. They would rather do nothing than do something imperfectly. But here's the truth. Perfect is the enemy of good. Done is better than perfect. You can improve something that exists. You can't improve something that doesn't exist, because you're still trying to perfect it. I knew a woman who spent 3 years perfecting her business plan. 3 years. She researched every detail, considered every contingency, modeled every scenario. Meanwhile, her competitor started a similar business with a 2-page plan and built $1 million company. The woman with the perfect plan, she's still perfecting it. Stop perfecting. Start progressing. Launch before you're ready. Improve as you go. Every successful person I know wishes they had started sooner, not spent more time preparing. Second, procrastination. Procrastination isn't about being lazy. It's about being overwhelmed by the size of the task or afraid of what completing it might mean. So we delay. We find urgent but unimportant things to do instead. We convince ourselves we'll do it tomorrow when we have more time, more energy, more motivation. But here's what successful people know. You don't overcome procrastination by waiting for motivation. You overcome procrastination by taking action. Any action. The smallest possible action. Want to write a book? Don't commit to writing a chapter. Commit to writing one paragraph. Want to start exercising? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. Want to learn a new skill? Don't commit to a 2-hour study session. Commit to reading 1 page. Small actions create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates bigger actions. Pretty soon you're doing what you thought was impossible. The key is to make the action so small that it's harder to avoid than to do. Once you start, physics takes over. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Third, blame. This is the most dangerous form of self-sabotage because it feels so good. When things go wrong, it's satisfying to find someone or something to blame. Your parents didn't give you enough support. Your boss doesn't appreciate you. The economy is terrible. Technology is changing too fast. People don't understand your vision. All of these things might be true, but blame is a trap. When you blame external factors for your problems, you give away your power to solve them. If it's not your fault, how can you fix it? If you're not responsible, how can you change it? Successful people take responsibility even when it's not entirely their fault. Not because they enjoy being blamed, but because responsibility gives them power. When you're responsible, you can do something about it. Instead of asking who's to blame, ask what can I learn? Instead of asking why is this happening to me, ask how can I use this? Instead of asking whose fault is this, ask what will I do differently next time? Fourth, comparison. Social media has made this worse, but comparison has always been a form of self-sabotage. You compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You compare your struggles to their success stories. You compare your beginning to their middle. Comparison kills motivation. It destroys confidence. It makes you feel like you're already behind, so why bother trying? But here's the truth. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Are you growing? Are you improving? Are you moving forward? That's all that matters. Everyone else is fighting their own battles, dealing with their own problems, working on their own dreams. Their success doesn't diminish your potential. Their achievements don't reduce your opportunities. There's enough success to go around. Use other people's success as proof that success is possible, not evidence that it's already taken. Now let me share with you the daily disciplines that create extraordinary results. Because success isn't about occasional bursts of massive action. Success is about consistent, daily habits that compound over time. The first discipline, invest in yourself before you invest in anything else. Every successful person I know spends at least 1 hour a day learning something that makes them more valuable. They read, they listen to podcasts, they take courses, they find mentors, they practice skills. Most people spend money on things that depreciate in value. Cars, clothes, entertainment, gadgets. Successful people spend money on things that appreciate in value. Education, skills, relationships, experiences that teach them something. Your earning ability is your most valuable asset. It's worth more than your house, your car, your savings account. Because even if you lost everything else, you could rebuild it if you have valuable skills. But here's the key. You must learn something that the marketplace rewards. You can become an expert on medieval history, but if the marketplace doesn't value medieval history, your expertise won't translate to income. You can master a skill that you love, but if no one wants to pay for that skill, it's a hobby, not a career. Find the intersection between what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what people will pay for. That's where you invest your learning time. The second discipline, manage your time like the finite resource it is. You have 168 hours a week. Everyone does. Rich or poor, young or old, successful or unsuccessful. The difference isn't in how much time you have. The difference is in how you use the time you have. Successful people track their time like they track their money. They know where every hour goes. They budget their time like they budget their finances. They invest their time in activities that create compound returns. Here's an exercise that will change your life for 1 week. Track exactly how you spend every hour. Write it down. Be honest. How much time on social media? How much time watching TV? How much time in meaningless conversations? How much time worrying about things you can't control? Most people waste 2 to 3 hours a day. That's 14 to 21 hours a week. That's enough time to learn a new skill, start a side business, exercise regularly, or deepen relationships with people you care about. Time is your most valuable currency. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. Spend it wisely. The third discipline, build relationships before you need them. The time to make friends is before you need friends. The time to build professional relationships is before you need professional opportunities. Most people network backwards. They try to build relationships when they need something. But relationships built on need rarely last. Relationships built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine interest in each other's success. Those are the relationships that create opportunities. Make it a habit to reach out to one person every day. Not to ask for something, but to offer something. To check in, to share something useful, to make an introduction, to congratulate them on a success, to offer support during a challenge. Over time, you'll build a network of people who know you, trust you, and want to help you succeed. Not because they owe you something, but because they genuinely care about your success. The fourth discipline, embrace calculated risks. Every significant achievement requires risk. You risk time, money, reputation, the possibility of failure. Most people are so afraid of risk that they take the biggest risk of all, the risk of doing nothing. But successful people don't take reckless risks. They take calculated risks. They evaluate the potential upside against the potential downside. They consider what they could gain versus what they could lose. They ask, what's the worst thing that could happen? Can I handle that? What's the best thing that could happen? Is that worth the risk? More importantly, they understand that not taking action is also a risk. The risk of staying in the same place while everything around you changes. The risk of watching opportunities pass you by. The risk of reaching the end of your life with a list of regrets instead of a list of accomplishments. The fifth discipline, develop the ability to delay gratification. This is perhaps the most important discipline of all. The ability to do what's best for your future instead of what feels good right now. Every choice you make is between your immediate desires and your long-term goals. Do you watch TV or read a book? Do you spend money on something you want or save it for something you need? Do you eat the donut or stick to your diet? Do you sleep in or get up and exercise? These seem like small choices, but they're not. These choices repeated thousands of times create your life. Success is the compound interest of good choices. Failure is the compound interest of poor choices. The The secret is to make your long-term goals more compelling than your short-term desires. Write down your goals. Look at them every day. Visualize achieving them. Make them so real in your mind that doing anything that doesn't serve those goals feels wrong. Now let me talk to you about what I call the strategic life. Most people live reactively. They respond to whatever happens to them. Successful people live strategically. They position themselves for the kind of opportunities they want. Living strategically means thinking several moves ahead. It means asking, if I do this, what will probably happen next? How will this position me for future opportunities? What doors will this open? What doors might it close? I knew a young lawyer who could have made partner at a prestigious firm. Instead, he left to work for a small company that was about to go public. His friends thought he was crazy. You're giving up a guaranteed partnership for a risky startup. But he thought strategically. He knew that if the company succeeded, his stock options would be worth more than he'd make in 10 years at the law firm. If it failed, he was young enough to rebuild. The risk was manageable, but the upside was enormous. The company did succeed. His stock options made him wealthy enough to start his own firm where he had complete control over his time, his clients, and his income. His friends were still working 60-hour weeks trying to make partner. Strategic thinking means playing the long game. It means sometimes saying no to good short-term opportunities so you can say yes to great long-term opportunities. It also means positioning yourself in growth industries, around growth people, in growth markets. It means learning skills that will be valuable in the future, not just skills that are valuable today. But perhaps most importantly, strategic living means knowing when to persist and when to pivot, when to double down and when to cut your losses, when to fight for something and when to let it go. This brings us back to the art of conscious detachment. Sometimes the most strategic thing you can do is let go of something that's no longer serving you, a job that's not growing you, a relationship that's draining you, a strategy that's not working, a belief that's limiting you. Conscious detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring enough to let go when letting go is the right thing to do. It's about loving something enough to release it when holding on is hurting both of you. I watched an entrepreneur spend 3 years trying to save a failing business. 3 years of 18-hour days, depleted savings, and damaged relationships. His friends kept telling him to give up, but he saw giving up as failure. Finally, he closed the business. Within 6 months, he started a new venture that became incredibly successful. I should have let go of the first business 2 years earlier, he told me. I was so afraid of failing that I failed to see new opportunities. Sometimes holding on is the real failure. Sometimes letting go is the greatest success. As we come to the end of our time together, let me ask you a question that should guide every decision you make. If you continue living the way you're living now, will you become the person you want to become? Will you achieve the goals you want to achieve? Will you live the life you want to live? If the answer is yes, then keep doing what you're doing. But if the answer is no, and for most people the honest answer is no, then something has to change. And that something is you. Change is uncomfortable. It's uncertain. It's risky. But you know what's more uncomfortable, more uncertain, more risky? Staying the same when staying the same isn't working. You have more control over your life than you realize. You have more power than you've been using. You have more potential than you've been expressing. But potential unused becomes pain. Dreams deferred become regrets. Opportunities ignored become sorrows. The clock is ticking, not to scare you, but to wake you up. Every day you delay taking action on your dreams is a day you'll never get back. Every opportunity you pass up may not come around again. Every excuse you make is a day stolen from your future. But here's the beautiful truth. You can start changing your life right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, right now, today, this moment. Remember the compound effect. Small actions taken consistently create big results. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to start somewhere. Choose one thing, one habit you'll develop, one skill you'll learn, one relationship you'll improve, one fear you'll face, one excuse you'll stop making, one dream you'll start pursuing. Then commit to it, not just intellectually but emotionally. Write it down. Tell someone about it. Make it real. Make it concrete. Make it impossible to ignore. And then begin. Not perfectly, not with all the answers, not when you feel ready. Begin anyway, because you don't need to be great to get started, but you need to get started to be great. The life you want is waiting for you. It's waiting for you to stop making excuses and start taking action. It's waiting for you to stop sabotaging yourself and start supporting yourself. It's waiting for you to stop living reactively and start living strategically. Most importantly, it's waiting for you to master the art of using relationships wisely, building connections that serve mutual growth, maintaining them while they're beneficial, and gracefully transitioning when their season is past. This isn't about using people callously. This is about understanding that every relationship has a purpose and a season, and honoring both. Your success depends on your ability to attract the right people at the right times, to learn from them, to grow with them, and to know when it's time to move on. Success is a collaborative effort, but you must be strategic about your collaborators. The foundation is yours. The patterns are clear. The implementation is waiting. What will you do with what you now know? The question isn't whether you can succeed. The question is whether you will succeed. And that depends entirely on what you do next. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your life is waiting. Begin.